I was 15 years old when my parents decided I needed to attend a sports camp during summer break. They both worked full-time and didn't trust me to stay home alone all day. Despite not being from a wealthy family, my parents scraped together enough money to send me to this camp. I'd heard the instructors were paid well, which made sense considering the hefty fee my parents had to fork over. The first few weeks were great. I made friends quickly, and we had fun playing different sports, doing art projects, and hanging out. The instructors were cool too. They knew their stuff and treated us with respect. Everything was going smoothly until she showed up. For privacy's sake, I won't use her real name, but let's call her Karen. When Karen first arrived, she seemed perfect. The management team kept raving about her qualifications and experience. In front of them, she was all smiles and enthusiasm, but when the management team walked away, it was like a switch flipped. Her smile disappeared, her voice got harsh, and her eyes turned cold. She would bark orders at us to pick up balls immediately. She wouldn't even bother learning our names. She'd just point and bark orders like when she told the tall kid to move chairs, then called him stupid when he didn't do it, exactly how she wanted. She complained about her pay even though we all knew instructors at this camp made good money. She would moan about how she had to deal with us brats for such a pathetic salary, and how she should be coaching professional athletes instead of babysitting us. I started dreading going to camp. What had started as a fun summer activity became something I had to force myself to attend each day. My friends felt the same way. After about a month of this treatment, we decided we'd had enough. 5 of us went to the management office together. We told them everything, how Karen acted when they weren't around, the way she spoke to us, how she made us feel worthless. The manager listened, took some notes, and told us they would look into it and watch her classes to see what was happening. We left feeling relieved. We'd reported the bad instructor, management would see how she really behaved, and she'd be gone. For the next week, management did pop into Karen's sessions randomly, but somehow she always knew they were coming. When a manager appeared, Karen changed into this sweet, supportive instructor who knew all our names and gave encouraging feedback. The manager would praise everyone and compliment Karen on connecting with us kids. Karen would say she just loved helping young people develop their skills. After a week of this, management called me and my friends back to their office. The manager told us they had been watching but couldn't see the behavior we described. They said Karen seemed like a good instructor and asked if we might have been exaggerating. Then they told us they had told Karen about our complaints. My stomach dropped. When we were alone with her again, Karen pulled us aside. She called us brats who thought we could get her fired. She bragged about her 15 years of experience and asked if we really thought anyone would believe teenagers over her. From that day forward, she made our lives miserable. When we showed up for activities, she would call us troublemakers and tell us to sit out for the day. She said she didn't need our negative energy in her class. She'd make us sit on the sidelines while everyone else got to participate. If we protested, she would threaten to report us and asked if we wanted detention for the rest of summer. When other instructors noticed us sitting out and asked why, Karen would tell them we had been causing problems. Our reputation with the other instructors got worse. Some of our fellow campers started avoiding us too, not wanting to be seen with troublemakers. After a day where Karen refused to let my friend see the nurse when he twisted his ankle, I had an idea. We had been trying to fight her word against ours, but what if we had proof? That night I remembered something important. The camp rules allowed anyone over 14 to have their phones. We couldn't use them during activities, but we could keep them in our bags. The next morning I had a plan. I set my phone in my open bag, camera facing out, and hit record before each session with Karen. I did this every day for a week, collecting hours of footage. Each night I'd transfer the videos to my computer and edit them down. I listened to Minecraft music while doing this. The footage I collected was shocking. There she was, calling a Korean camper Chinese boy, telling a kid with glasses he was too blind to play basketball, flirting with male instructors, and refusing to take my friend to the nurse because he was faking it. After a week, I had a 30-minute compilation. I put it on a USB drive and took it to the management office. When the manager asked what I had brought, I told them it was evidence and they should watch it first. The management team's expressions changed as they watched the video. When it ended, they were silent for a moment. The manager told me to wait. They called in other staff members to see what they'd watched. Then they brought in other campers as witnesses. By the end of the day, word had spread that something big was happening. The next morning, Karen was called into the office while I waited outside. I couldn't hear everything, but the loud voices made it clear this wasn't friendly. When the door opened, Karen walked out, her face red. When she saw me sitting there, she stopped. She blamed me, saying this was all my fault. I didn't say anything. I just smiled at her. She was told to collect her things and leave. I later found out she was not only fired but banned from working at any youth programs they were connected with. As I walked home that day, I kept smiling. For once, an entitled person didn't get their way. For once, the kids were believed. Running errands on a Saturday morning should be simple. Get in, get what you need, get out. But this Saturday showed me how wild the gas station trip could become. I was out doing errands with my youngest son and grandson. We needed gas, so we pulled into our local station. The pay at pump feature wasn't working, forcing everyone to go inside to prepay. This meant people were buying more than just gas: lottery tickets, cigarettes, drinks, snacks, making the line move slower. With 12 pumps all feeding into one cashier, the line stretched far. I had just gotten out of my car and was walking toward my pump when I heard an angry car horn and someone screaming. A woman was yelling for everyone to get out of her way. Other people were shouting in confusion. Some were asking what was happening, others were wondering what she was doing, and some were warning others to look out. This elderly woman drove through the line of people waiting, bypassing everyone, and pulling her car right up to the gas station building. She could have hit someone. The elderly woman got out of her car, waving her cane around, trying to hit anyone who got close. She was shouting at everyone to get out of her way, demanding she needed to buy her cigarettes and lottery tickets immediately. She ordered everyone to go back to their cars and pay at the pumps, ignoring that the system wasn't working. The cashier inside was yelling over the intercom. The cashier was telling the elderly woman to stop, get back in her car, move it, and wait in line like everyone else. The elderly woman cursed at the cashier and called everyone idiots. She said she came to this gas station every Saturday at this exact time to get her lottery tickets, and she had to buy them at this exact time. The cashier threatened to call the police, pointing out that the elderly woman had endangered everyone in line and even the cashier if the woman's brakes had failed. The cashier told her she wouldn't be buying anything from the store ever again, and everything she did was being recorded on camera. The cashier had called the police, but several customers had already done so. Emergency services and police were on their way. The elderly woman stood her ground, getting more aggressive. She didn't care what the cashier thought. She demanded her lottery tickets, listing which ones she wanted, and a carton of cigarettes, insisting the cashier give them to her immediately. The cashier refused to serve her. Then the cashier asked over the intercom if anyone was hurt. No one was seriously injured, though a few people had been bumped by her car or hit with her cane. The police arrived. An officer approached the elderly woman and asked her to step away from the window and speak with him. The elderly woman refused to move until she got her lottery tickets. A second officer joined the first, telling her she wouldn't be getting any lottery tickets today and asking her to step aside. This made her more angry. She lifted her cane and started swinging it around. The first officer warned her to put the cane down. He said if she didn't come speak with them peacefully and stop using her cane as a weapon, they would taser her. Emergency services had arrived along with 2 more police officers. The third police officer was trying to manage the situation. He asked everyone to step away and go to the ambulance, requesting that anyone injured let them know. The fourth officer called for witnesses willing to make a statement to come his way. 2 more police officers showed up along with another ambulance. It was turning into quite the scene. The first 2 officers were still trying to reason with the elderly woman, but she wouldn't listen. She started grabbing bottles of motor oil, car accessories, and throwing them at the officers. The other officers were approaching slowly. The first officer told the woman she was under arrest and resisting arrest. He asked her to put the cane on the ground and put her hands up. The elderly woman cursed, saying she had done nothing wrong. She said the people blocking the line should be arrested. She threw another bottle of motor oil. The second officer gave her a final warning to put the cane down and her hands up, or she would be tased if she continued being aggressive. The elderly woman mocked the officer for threatening to taser an old woman trying to buy lottery tickets. She said she was going home and they should be ashamed for treating an elderly person this way. She tried to get back into her car. 4 officers moved toward her and one reached for her arm. That's when it happened. She hit one of the officers in the head with her cane. The second officer tased her. The emergency services workers checked on her after the officers handcuffed her. Everyone stayed to give their statements. No one except the officer she hit was hurt. After finishing our errands, we drove back by the gas station. A tow truck was loading up her car. All that chaos just because someone felt entitled to skip the line for lottery tickets and cigarettes. After posting about how I managed to gut our Homeowners Association board of power-hungry idiots, I figured it was time to share another story from just a few months ago. This one shows that some good can come from HOAs when they're not run by power-drunk buffoons. I've been on our HOA board for several years now, and I've seen all kinds of weird appeals and issues we've had to resolve. Everything from pond management problems to neighborly disputes. But this story centers around a specific renter in our neighborhood and their terrible property management company. At the end of every quarterly meeting for our community, members can stay behind and review issues with the board. Typically, this consists of community members with fines who want to appeal or settle up. This time, however, a regular attendee came in, which surprised all of us. She had never once received a fine, helped with several committees, and had 2 amazing kids, one of whom had special needs. This becomes important later. She sat down and placed a folder in front of us, and that's when I knew she meant business. She explained that she needed the board's help with an issue involving her neighbor. She then described how her neighbor had been digging up and taking her flowers and had flipped around the basketball hoop that her special needs son used regularly. She had even installed a camera and had video evidence to prove it, which she showed to us. I told her that this was serious and advised her to call the police immediately. She looked down at the table and told me that she had already done that, but the police had told her to go through the Homeowners Association first. While that made no sense to me, I assured her we would look into how we could help. She thanked us with tears in her eyes and left after that. I walked out of the meeting wondering what I could do without knowing my options. When I got home, I decided to look up the address of the neighbor. I discovered that the house belonged to a renter and a property owner with a long history of issues with our HOA. The property has had 10 different tenants in 7 years and still has some serious outstanding issues with the board. I researched the property management company and found they owned over 50 houses across multiple towns in my area and had a D- rating with the Better Business Bureau. I contacted my fellow board members to ask their opinions on the situation while sharing my research findings. One of the board members reminded me that this was the same management company that had sent a representative to our last meeting trying to appeal a bunch of fines because they simply didn't want to pay them. I had forgotten it was the same house. The representative had also tried to claim that since their tenants didn't want to pay the fines, neither should the property company. We denied all their requests since they were years behind on many fees and dues. I decided to drive by the property to see for myself, and I was shocked by what I saw. The grass was over a foot high, there were dog chains in the front yard, and the flowers were immaculate while the neighboring house's flowers were missing. The basketball hoop was flipped around just as the woman had described. My jaw dropped. I took some pictures as evidence and drove back home. I contacted our board legal consultant and asked if there was anything we could do to help. Since the property management company had refused to pay dues and fines for over 8 years since buying the house, we did have the authority to foreclose and then put the house up for sale through the bank that held the mortgage. I thought it was strange that a corporate housing company would mortgage the property given the number of houses they owned, but whatever. I wasn't excited about foreclosing just yet, so I set up a meeting request with the tenant. Since we weren't allowed to interact directly with renters, I sent a request for the tenant to talk to the property owner, and I made a list of issues to address. When the next meeting came around, the same representative from the company who had appeared at previous meetings showed up. When it was time for his slot, he sat down and asked what was wrong. My VP started by listing the fines and past due payments and asked when they planned to pay these. The representative bluntly said that they had no intention of paying them. I asked if he understood that this meant their company could lose the house to foreclosure. He looked sheepish for a second, then replied that they had great lawyers and had dealt with similar situations in other neighborhoods before. We tried to reason with him further, but it was clear they thought they were above community standards and owed us nothing. I preferred to wait 10 years before deciding to foreclose on a delinquent house, as no account has ever had that long of a history with our HOA. We're usually able to resolve issues. Homeowners associations need to use that authority carefully, but since this clearly was never going to be resolved, the board voted to start foreclosure proceedings on the property. I reached out to other HOAs where the company owned properties and discovered that two of them were doing the exact same thing. While it's currently an ongoing case, there's a chance we can also file a class action lawsuit against the company for property negligence. We'll see what happens, but I would love to run them out of business since all they do is attract bad renters, ruin houses, and ignore HOA rules. I also got in contact with our community's police liaison and told him about the flower stealing and trespassing. I explained that one of our residents had reported these incidents to the police but was told to go through the HOA first. The officer expressed shock that our department had turned this lady away, saying that it was not their protocol, and offered to help with the situation. The resident contacted me a few days ago to let me know there's now an official investigation into the matter, and she's working on suing the tenant for stealing her property. I offered to testify if it ever came to that, and I'm confident she'll win her case. The property management company representative called me last week, suddenly very interested in working something out once they received the foreclosure notice and learned about the police investigation. I told him it was too little, too late. He complained that they would lose money on the property, and I reminded him that they should have thought about that before deciding the rules didn't apply to them. Now they're trying to pay all their back fees and fines to stop the foreclosure, but we're proceeding anyway. I work at Mindy's drive-thru. After my photography business failed, I needed to pay bills while taking night classes in graphic design. The job is simple. Take orders, collect money, hand out food. I make up silly greetings to keep things interesting. Wednesday afternoon during rush hour, I was at the speaker ready for the next car. I greeted the customer with my flowery Wednesday welcome to Mindy's and asked how I could help them. A woman's voice came through after some fumbling. The customer asked me what I had said, repeating her question as if she couldn't understand me. I switched to my normal voice, welcoming her to Mindy's and asking if she wanted to place an order. The customer told me that I had sounded stupid. She ordered a kid's meal with a medium chocolate frosty, followed by another medium chocolate frosty, but her voice trailed off into mumbling. I waited before telling her that the kid's meal only comes with a junior-size frosty, though she could upgrade to a small if she wanted. The customer responded in a more polite tone, agreeing that the standard option was fine and thanking me. Her change in tone surprised me. I looked at my co-worker who was making orders nearby. I told my co-worker that I was going to give this lady a medium frosty in her kid's meal instead of the small one. My co-worker shrugged. I don't mess with kids' food, and she had become nicer. I prepared her order. Kid's meal with a toy, medium frosty in the meal, and another medium frosty. I felt good about this small kindness. That feeling didn't last. When her car pulled up, I barely recognized her. Her face was angry, and her knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I thought I was being pranked. I handed her the kid's meal bag and the two medium frosties. I told her the total amount due. She grabbed the food, swiped her card, and stared at me while inching her car forward. Then she stopped, reversed, and nearly hit the car behind her and the wall. One of the medium frosties came flying through my window, covering my uniform and the floor. The customer screamed at me with a barely censored curse word. She said she had asked for a medium frosty and demanded what she had paid for. I looked at my chocolate-covered shirt, took a breath, and removed the second medium frosty from her tray. I threw it away, got a small frosty from our dispenser, and handed it to her. I explained that I was now giving her the small frosty that comes with the kids' meal exactly as per our menu and what she paid for. Her face changed as she realized what happened. I noticed the kids' meal wasn't even for a child. There was no child in the car, just her and another adult. My co-worker leaned into my window space. My co-worker pointed out that I had already given the customer 2 medium frosties, but now she was getting what she had paid for, with emphasis on paid for. I had to stop myself from laughing. The customer and her passenger went quiet. Their faces changed back to polite expressions. They drove forward and out of the drive-thru. When they left, my co-worker and I laughed. Despite being covered in chocolate frosty, seeing her face when she realized I had given her more than she paid for made it worth it. My manager came over and looked at the mess. My manager told me to go change and said she would cover my position. As I went to clean up, my co-worker gave me a high five. My co-worker said the scene had been great and asked if I had seen the customer's face. I said her paid-for line was even better. We still talk about the frosty thrower during our shifts. I've never given another customer a free upgrade since.